Thank you very much.
Oh, then the property review.
Oh, the property review. So, okay, right, okay. Did you want to just briefly introduce this one, or does staff want to introduce it?
I think it's pretty straightforward. Sorry.
I said, yeah, well, I was just asking a question. Do we...
I'll introduce it.
Because I know that Aaron's got a question for you, so yes. We could go straight to the question if you like.
Yeah, I'm quite happy.
Okay.
Fire.
Aaron, fire away. Time's now.
Yeah, so just, there's a lot of properties there, you guys, and some of them I can understand why you'd keep them. One that stood out for me was Main South Road, the old service centre, because it's quite an eyesore for the public these days, and that'd be a lot better developed into something that's worth several $1 million. Why did that one not make the list, if any?
Well, because it was the way it was derived originally. It's deemed to be, it would have to go through the Crown Land disposal process. It's also part of that site was a previous quarry back in its day. Some of the buildings have subsided, but we have seen a signal that we do want the demolition of that service centre building done ASAP. So that signal's gone through. But there's also there's some other issues that need to be resolved before the final, and I don't know whether we'd want to talk about them just yet. Like, for example,
well, the
Milton Street Yard, you know, maybe.
Oh, yeah, but there's also been plans to put a road link through there as well. So there's some unresolved transport planning issues associated with it. And just to clarify what Mike said about it, is Crown derived, so council wouldn't actually get any money from it. So we'd have to return it to the Crown. So I think it's quite a sensible decision that we sit on it strategically until we resolve the transport issues. It's got some infrastructure on it and some of those issues before we go making decisions about it, because we may still want it for a community purpose down the track. And it's although it's an eyesore, and there is a report going to the board to tidy that up, I think next month. So.
It's quite a long list with a few dividends.
The dividends are yet to come as things evolve.
Right, you sound like
dividends for the community, and yeah.
Dion.
The properties on Haskett's Road, are they occupied at the moment?
A couple of them are, yes. Yeah.
Just two of them?
Short-term tenancies.
Because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 resident or 8 lifestyle blocks around there. One of them is not owned by the council, is that right?
Right, it's a housing New Zealand, and that's got people in there that are very comfortable with their abode and their location, and haven't got any issues
and
to do with the noise from the speedway or
yeah. So I mean that leads on to the next question I had. I mean, it says in the report here that the land should not be used for, the land is not to be used for permanent residential use.
That was the resolution of the council in the day when they were purchased.
Yeah, I mean, is that still the case? Because I mean, there's $4 million worth of land that we're sitting on, land and property that we're sitting on there.
No, more than that, I think.
It's $4.5 million. It just seems,
put it on the market, it'd be more than that.
I mean, it just seems like there's properties on there that aren't being used that the council own. Actually, why are we not utilising them in some way? Or, they just seem like a petrol head would love to live there.
Correct.
It is still the existing council resolution that we do not put permanent residents in there. So the ones where there are habitable houses and we've tenanted out those there on a temporary basis, not permanent. The value is somewhat affected if the council's going to control use. So they might be valuable as lifestyle blocks if you can put a permanent residence and house on them, but that is not what the council has resolved and wants to do. So that therefore significantly limits the value of the properties to being additional rural land for adjoining blocks maybe.
Also, what is the underlying land use at the moment?
It's rural too. Under the old district plan, it was rural too.
What about the new district plan? Does anybody know?
Similar.
I think it's similar, yeah. Similar.
Oh, sorry, it was rural 5, it's rural 2 now. It was rural 5 under the old district plan, which was one of the most noise sensitive rural zoning you could have. In fact, you couldn't hardly, under that noise restriction, you couldn't hardly start up a chainsaw because your next door neighbour could complain about it.
It's rural,
anyway,
it says on there rural 5.
That's what caused
Sorry.
some of the issues with,
I should have looked at that.
with Ruapuna.
Yeah, it says rural 5. I just,
5, yeah.
I mean, when was the decision of the last, when was the decision made for, or that previous resolution made?
The previous resolution was made when it was before the district plan review. In fact, it was before the earthquakes.
So how long have we owned these properties?
It'd probably be close to 10 years, I would say.
I actually think we should actually look at that resolution and look at these properties in a little bit more detail than just say keep them, because there's quite a lot of capital wound up there, and
There are people around currently, I'm not speaking out of turn, that would like to showing interest
no, I mean
in either renting, leasing.
yeah, I mean I'm an electric car user, but I wouldn't mind living next to a petrol head place. It would sound great. But I do think, I mean, I don't know how we can, if there was an appetite there, but I think there's these ones at that, these properties at Haskett's Road probably need a little bit more closer look than just letting them lie. Because I mean, there's houses, 2 out of 5 houses aren't used
for that location as well, councillor.
And can I say, you could keep those properties potentially for some linked to, in fact, motorsport. We've got a regional motorsport at Ruapuna. I was one of the ones on a different side to Mike over noise levels. I think the previous council, the one before that, bought the properties to stop the problems for those residents, but I think there's a long-term strategy to hold them for some activity that's linked to, in fact, motorsport.
Okay, so does the board support, rather than just retaining the following properties for future strategic purpose, actually maybe for these specific properties actually start a process of actually looking more in detail over those? Because
The purpose of having them in that category is that we do look at them in the future, make the exact decisions you're talking about.
yeah, but I mean, that is just sitting on the land. I actually think I'd rather us sort of be a bit more proactive, and actually within maybe a resolution within this to actually be a bit more proactive on these specific properties, because it just seems of all of them that actually there's a bit more use that can be. I've just been told that only 2 of them have been used. There's 5 properties there.
I think what you might be suggesting then is, because that's the intent, is to look at these as you're saying you want them prioritised, and we do these ones sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that just seems logical that they're sitting there and not being utilised.
That thing from the resolution of the council 7 or 8 years ago.
The resolution 3 offers us, can you just lift that up a wee bit? Rather than just limit that to an alternative public use, and an alternative public use gets around it, but an alternative strategic or public use, because it may well not necessarily be in our interest to be the owner.
Exactly.
I mean, I was going to ask the same question about the Yaldhurst Memorial Hall, and I know that there was a debate at the time as to whether building halls was an appropriate way of memorialising, as in, the issue arises when a building comes to the end of its life. And this one's been damaged and closed by the earthquake, so it's not serving the purpose that it was built for, and it's not serving any purpose. And I mean, is it actually better off in our ownership doing that, or is it better off in the community's ownership where they could, sort of develop it? And I understood that there was some interest in the Yaldhurst community.
And there is, and those meetings that are happening now. I was invited to one with the community yesterday, but I couldn't get to it because I had other engagements. But next week I will be meeting with that community group that's driving the proposal for the Aldhurst War Memorial Hall.
But I mean, that may involve them putting up a proposal where they become the owners.
That's all of that. So that's being talked about.
But why would we make a decision now to hold it in our ownership?
Exactly.
Because we don't want to preempt what might come out of the discussions with the community. Mr. Watson and I have been talking about this, but anyway, he can update you.
So 3 applies to both. Can I just clarify something in terms of the process? The first precipitous decision, and if you reflect back to the 4 reports we had last month, is do we want to declare property surplus and sell them? Now that is... But that triggers a process for some because of the underlying designation.
We're absolutely obliged to then go on and sell it. So unless we're very clear that we want to sell it and get rid of it, I'd caution the council not to make that decision. I think, and then you've got the second group of properties, which is let's hold these for a strategic purpose to be worked on over the future. And then there's those 2 properties there in the third group, which is we think these would be suitable for community uses, or they have community uses in them or other public uses. Let's work and come up with a proposal that can be well supported for those. If I'm picking up on the debate properly around maybe the Aldhurst Hall and the Heskett Roads properties, I think the category they're in is good. What I'm hearing is you want to prioritise those and have them looked at sooner rather than later. Yeah. So I don't think it needs the resolutions amended, but what it is a message to staff and a community board that we crack on with those ones as a priority and with some urgency.
Well, if we can get that, assertion, that I suppose then we'll have to follow it up, and I hope the community board will follow that up. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, this is asking us to delegate authority to the community board to make the decision for retention for alternative use. Whereas, I mean, the community board might say, no, well, we better own it. We're not gonna put a proposal back to council.
Yeah, true.
You know, but you could. Yeah. You know, and I mean, the question is, I mean.
No, I think it should be cancelled.
Well, I've got no philosophical objection to the community board making a decision, but I kind of don't want them to feel constrained around the delegated authority, in that we would be probably prepared to consider, you know, selling it, as we have done with other facilities. I mean, we've either provided funding or we've provided a facility to a community group who've taken it over. So
that could be an outcome of the discussions that are going on there.
Yes.
That resolution 4 relates only to the properties in resolution 2 upon satisfaction of the issues in 3, so it's only related to the third group of properties, which is to look for alternate uses.
But that's what I can't understand. Paragraph 2 says support retention of the following properties subject to the conditions in resolution 3, and then resolution 3 says retention of the properties set out in resolutions 1 and 2 above. So it doesn't make sense to me. I'm just, if it really is 1 and 2 above, then
yes,
why would
that should just be 1? Just be 2.
Well, I don't agree with that, because there's a whole lot more properties that should be in there.
No, the resolution 3 should actually only say retention of the property set out conditions. So the process outlined there in 3 and 4 relates to the 2 properties in resolution 2. There's no intention to give delegations or make decisions on the others apart from hold them for the purpose of being looking at and reviewed in the future. And those decisions would come back through the community board to council.
Yeah, well, this is where I got confused, because 3 says retention of the properties set out in resolutions 1 and 2.
Yeah, it should only be 2.
But we want you to go through a process of this for some of the properties in 1.
Correct.
Or should we, I mean,
Correct, but the decisions in 1 are what are we going to do with those properties strategically. They're not to go out and look for alternate public uses. So the community board have said in terms of the 2 properties in 2, we think they're suitable for alternate public uses. We want you to go out and look at those, and they've got to meet those criteria and bring back some decisions on future public uses. The properties in the first category are not, hey, we want to look for alternate public uses. They require some higher strategic decisions. Do we want to hold them? Do we want to sell them? Those sort of things.
So that would be a separate line of work.
That's a separate line of work and at a higher strategic level. Whereas the ones in 2 are definitely go out and find another public use. We want to keep those in council ownership and we want to look at alternate public uses for them. But we're not saying that with the properties in 1.
properties in 1, you're saying keep them in council ownership for a future strategic purpose?
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
So the work is to identify that strategic purpose or not.
That's yet to be identified. So what they're saying is we don't think these properties should be A, sold or be used for another public purpose until we really have a good feeling of what we want to do with them. Correct. So it could be working with the community board, they actually go, oh, let's sell them. Or we've got some other ideas we want to use for them.
Yeah.
It's not a final decision, no.
But I think those properties...
But retention we're delegating to the community board.
I think if you look at it in terms of, there's a list of properties, and one is we don't want them, let's sell them. The other one is we want to use them for alternate public uses, and the other one is we're not sure.
And all we're retaining for
And
strategic
we'll work through them.
purposes.
If I may, Madam Mayor, I think there is a way for, you don't need to change the delegation, the resolution as recommended there. If you look at number 3E, that is the key hurdle that needs to be addressed. And for sites such as, if your concern is, and I'll use the example that the board might decide they want to retain the Yaldhurst Hall, but council might choose to have a different approach. In fact, E comes into play because there is no budget set aside apart for demolition. So the board won't have that delegation because there is no funding established. It will have to come back to council for the final decision.
Oh, for the funding.
And it was the same, I'm pretty sure, the Hasketts Road, we don't contain, I have to scrimp and save to find any money we have in there because there's no allocation in the long-term plan for the maintenance of the Haskett Road properties. So that becomes the key restriction. You can leave the recommendation as is, and the board's recommendations will have to come to council for consideration.
I'm not wanting, and you've been very helpful. Thank you for that. I'm thinking that there was a pretty strong submission, as I recall, and I don't have any of the facts in front of me, in relation to the Yaldhurst Memorial Hall. That I'm hearing from the community board chair that they're in active conversation with the community, rather than including it in a resolution that states that we want to approve the retention of it for a future strategic purpose when we have money on budget just to demolish it. I'd much rather just say provide further advice on so take it out of there, provide further advice on Yaldhurst Memorial Hall, 524 Pound Road, once the discussions have been had with the local community.
Leanne, that's exactly what's happening. It says, if you go to 3, the retention of these properties, as long as for public use that can be rationalised, satisfies a clearly identified need and is supported by a sound, robust business case. That is what's happening now, is that community are trying to put together a sound, robust business case. If they can't, then it will come back and we may start considering other options for that site, but that's where it's at currently.
But what I've been told is that the expression
Yeah.
plural resolution,
Yep.
one and, is not what the report was meant to say. It was only meant, three's only meant to apply to two.
Well, we were quite happy with it at a community board to accept the staff recommendation without change, because we'd had workshop on it, we'd been and visited all the sites, we had discussions before this report was written. When it did come to us, we were comfortable as a majority to adopt the staff recommendation without change.
Well, I'm going to move an amendment then, because I just think that classifying it as approving the retention of it for a future strategic purpose today is not necessary when we're having conversations with the community. And I think it would show good faith to the community that we highlighted the Aldhurst Memorial Hall, that we said that we wanted further advice once the local community had an opportunity to provide some input. I mean, I just think it would send a very good message to the local community.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's okay. It's okay.
Oh, it's okay.
I think it's okay. No,
Intention is
it's open.
yeah.
So Leanne was going to move an amendment,
Sorry. Yeah.
On the Aldhurst Hall.
just specifically on the Aldhurst Hall.
Same.
I think it's fine, actually. I think it's good.
I think it's fine.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Yeah, well, we're probably 80% through the discussions on
Yeah.
Aldhurst. We've asked them to come back with a business plan through the board and then through the council. Remembering that the board has had made a recommendation to have it demolished. It came to council and that was put on hold at the last minute.
Yeah.
So they've had 7 months of research and having a look at it. The only question I have put to them is...
So who put it on hold?
No, the council did.
The council did.
Put the decision on hold in November last year.
December last year, community board presented this issue, particular.
So this is why I'm remembering it.
Yeah, in that time.
Why do we want to include it in a resolution approving the retention of it when we haven't had that
I
further report
explained that
back?
to the meeting at the time, and so the council resolved at that time to embark on this process, which we're still... Would
anyone die in a ditch if I was to just cross it out?
No.
And
No,
the assessment is shown
let's just do
there's
it.
no unintended consequences if you take it out, so
Right.
I think that's fine.
Okay, delete.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I think it's okay.
Okay, you're happy to move? Yes, and seconded by Vicky? Right. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried.